Typical reactions to Alex Jones' Infowars. Alex Jones has been called the host of an immensely popular conspiracy theory radio show and website that is, at best, a mixed introduction, because as positive as immensely popular may sound, the term conspiracy theory is regularly used in a dismissive way. People using that term usually have a bevy of other words and terms ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Do you have this hat and tinfoil? A few examples include tinfoil hatter, paranoia, and delusional. It's a defense mechanism that allows the individual to not have to deal with any of the facts and concepts that the person, in this case, Jones, speaks about. It's like a lawyer who works to hurt the credibility of an eyewitness, even though the witness testimony may be quite valid. If the jury can associate the testimony with some real or perceived flaw in the witness, it can be responsible for a verdict that misses the truth of the matter. It's a favorite propaganda technique in swaying public opinion. If you can get a large segment of the public to laugh at, invalidate or otherwise feel superior to a person, you can get them to ignore their life's work, including scholarly research and overwhelming evidence they may have documented. Exposing corruption. One of the rejoiners that brings back the Alex Jones radio show from commercial breaks talks about exposing corruption. Indeed, exposing the corruption of people with tremendous power is one of the main themes of his show. As you can probably imagine, corrupt, powerful people have a lot to gain by working to foment a perception of Jones that allows people to simply write him off, so to speak, not pay attention to anything he says. Beyond that, the truth is that the information Jones exposes on his show is often quite distressing. He documents the global conspiracy of an elite cabal, comprised of several bloodline families. They hold the greatest concentrations of power and wealth of the world, and are closing in on their multi-generational mission to create a despotic global dictatorship. Fun with population reduction. Their endgame is to reduce the vast majority of the population on the planet. The small percentage who would survive would primarily be a slave class of workers and servants. If you are not familiar with the evidence of this plan, it sounds incredibly far out, but Jones highlights the fact that these globalists have set up numerous organizations whose leaders publicly talk about the need to kill off the teeming, useless eaters. Needless to say, the data discussed on his show can be quite distressing, so it's a normal defense mechanism for people to reject him out of hand with the use of knee-jerk pejoratives. Not exactly light-hearted fare. A large percentage of people who come across the information he publishes and broadcasts don't even need to be exposed to the bought and paid for, orchestrated, discrediting efforts put out by the corrupt powers that be. They do that for themselves, for free, in an effort to not have to come to terms with the ugly truth of the situation here on Earth. Category 3. A third category of people, in relation to reactions to Alex Jones, is comprised of those who recognize that he is telling the truth. They refuse to listen to him because what they have taken from what they have heard from him is that the depth and the breadth of the global conspiracy is so vast and complete, there is nothing that can be done to prevent the cabal from accomplishing their horrific goals. That is not his position, but that is the feeling they get. They feel it's just a matter of time before hell on earth is upon us all. Since they don't believe anything can be done to prevent it, the last thing they want to do is to spend whatever good time is left before the shit hits the fan, dwelling about the unpleasantness to come. Category 4. A fourth category is also comprised of people who believe him. They are willing to continue to listen to him, because his message is that there is still time to take action to stave off or even prevent a lot of the plans the cabal has in store for humanity. They believe it is wiser to be aware of what is going on and to prepare as best as possible, than to simply ignore it since it's unpleasant to think about. This is the group that I am in, and the group one I'm actively recruiting for. My friend in category 2.5. The reason I'm writing about this topic at this moment is because of the reaction I got recently. Go from a lifelong friend whom I had tried for some time to get to listen to Jones' radio show. I told him that the easiest way to listen is via an app for smartphones, but that he could also just go to the website, Infowars.com, and click on the link that says, Listen to Alex, and to choose from a number of options. After some time and prodding, he finally downloaded the app and listened to his show. He didn't even tell me. I'm not sure he ever would have volunteered it, if I didn't ask him, but when I did ask him in an email, he replied back a few days later and said that he did listen and that he does not intend to listen again. This friend is someone I've known my whole life. Our moms were best friends when they were knee-high to grasshoppers, as the saying goes. We grew up in the same church, and we grew apart from a number of the beliefs we were taught in the church, at about the same time. We share a lot of the same views and insights about life. I was particularly disappointed to hear his reaction to Alex Jones. I would say his reaction had elements of category 2. He mentioned something to the effect first coming across doom and gloom reports in the 1970s. However, from numerous discussions, I know he is at least partially in category 3. He's aware of a lot of the things that Jones discusses. He's not in total denial, at all. What's Jane Roberts and Seth got to do with it? His Alex Jones radio show reaction to me took an interesting tack. He knows I was a big Jane Roberts fan. She wrote the Seth books. Seth is a non-physical entity that Roberts, as a medium, channeled in the last 20 or so years of her life. One of Seth's main themes is that we are co-creators of our lives. He said, we create, or at least, help create, our reality with our thoughts, perceptions, attitudes and beliefs, so it's important to choose what we think about and believe in. My friend went on to say that the reality that Jones presents is not the reality that he chooses to create. So, in my opinion, that really does place him more in category 3 than 2. He didn't deny that Jones spoke truth. He just chooses not to deal with it. Too difficult to try. I'm assuming it's because he believes that there's nothing he can do about it. The globalist machine is just too big and the plans are so far in effect. There is nothing that is going to stop them, so why bother worrying our pretty little heads in whatever window of non-horror time we have left? He may not exactly agree with that, but that is what I got from what he said. I know he doesn't really believe that by refusing to focus on what's happening, he is going to be able to prevent global events from affecting his reality. The truth is, he's more agnostic than anything, when it comes to where the collective, we, came from, and where we are headed, and what happens when we die. I believe his use of the Seth material was less than authentic, because he doesn't particularly ascribe to Seth's explanations of the spiritual realm being the source of the physical realm, in general, or any other number of particular spiritual information that Seth laid on us. For instance, Seth said that reincarnation is a reality, and that we all have guides who help us through our lives. According to Seth, they are our guides in between incarnations as well as throughout them. My friend does not believe in such things. Shenanigans. In fact, he is quick to refer to not believing in invisible superheroes, so I have to call shenanigans on him, quoting Seth to me. Seth, after all, was an invisible superhero, of sorts, who spoke through the person, Jane Roberts. Besides, Seth didn't say we each, individually create our own reality, but that we all are co-creating it with countless others beings, human and otherwise. He said that wishing certain things were not true would not make them go away. For instance, reincarnation. Seth and the stubborn sailor. Jane held a psychic development class that Seth would often make appearances at. One of her students sailed a boat, and would go long distances in the open sea. He mentioned that there was maintenance that must be done, including tightening a certain bolt that allowed him to steer the vessel. If it came undone, he would be lost at sea. Yet this student quizzed Seth. He said that if we create our reality with our thoughts, why couldn't he just use his thoughts to keep the bolt from loosening? Now, this sounds like a skeptic challenging the belief system Seth had presented, but that's really not the way the student meant it. He really wanted to sail to another continent without doing maintenance as a testament to his belief in the paradigm. Seth's position was that we are in the physical world and we have physical responsibilities. He reminded the student of the need to balance the physical, mental, emotional and spiritual realities which comprise the human experience. Give each their due. Don't be stupid, you moron. The student was adamant about wanting to stop doing physical maintenance, because he believed that he created his reality with his thoughts and beliefs, and he really believed he would be safe. At one point, Seth basically yelled at him and told him, in not so many words, "Don't be stupid, you moron." Like Ben Stern talking to his young son, Howard. Prepare for the storm. Jane Roberts' student reminds me of my friend's reaction. Believing that physical maintenance isn't needed to your boat makes as much sense to me as believing that if you don't pay attention to what's going on, the plans of evil people will not affect you. I sent my friend a short reply. It was something to the effect of, "Good idea. Next time there is a tornado, hurricane or other severe weather warning, just turn it off. It's not the reality you choose to create, so ignoring it is the best plan." The fact of the matter is, the evidence is overwhelming. There is a worldwide storm coming. Taking a defeatist attitude can do nothing more than to help make for a self-fulfilling prophecy of not being able to do a lick about it. If we have a window of a few months to a few years, it behooves each one of us to wake up, help wake others up, and then take whatever action we can take to stave off, prevent or ameliorate the dark plans this globalist cabal has in store for us. The compromised Ike analogy. Here's an analogy of why I find the kind of reaction my friend gave me, which is all too common, so frustrating. Imagine there is a dike that is leaking. It has a seemingly overwhelming amount of leaks. To prevent the floodgates from breaking down, it would take the majority of people in this large city to come to it and patch up a hole as best they could, while trying to get people from other cities to travel to the site and build a secondary wall. Most of the people in this city just don't believe the leaks are that bad or that many. Most of those who do know, don't think they can get the other people to believe it, and even if they could, they think it would be a lost cause, so they choose to just not thinking about it, since it is unpleasant. They hope things aren't as bad as they appear, because, after all, They first started hearing sporadic horror stories about a dike failure in the 1970s. There might actually be a chance to repair the dike, though. If everyone would wake up to the reality of how structurally damaged the dike is, a tremendous number of lives may be saved. If everybody would become aware, and first do their part in waking their friends and family up to the dire situation, and then run to the dike and do their part in plugging one leak, the future might not be nearly as bleak. Overall, it does seem unlikely, but if everyone would simply get involved, a critical mass could be achieved that might be a real game changer. The key is that everyone is needed. That includes the people whose normalcy bias can't fathom the dike breaking, as well as the people who believe it's too late to worry about anything other than a farewell to life party. If everyone would work together, perhaps enough damage could be curtailed to save the majority of their lives. Then, the survivors would work together to make sure they never let the dike fall into disrepair again. Life could change for the better for all the survivors. From that point on, those who died would not have died in vain. Those who survived would cherish their memories for the rest of their days. It's not the happiest ending in the world, but it's a whole hell of a lot better than the alternative. Your apathy contributes to my demise. That ain't right, sucka. Thus, it's one thing to say that you have the right to react to the information of the coming globalist storm any way you want, be it resignation or denial, but the truth is that your refusal to participate in the solution isn't just putting your survival in danger. You're putting the survival of everyone else on the line, by choosing to refuse to think unpleasant thoughts. If you don't like the thoughts provided by people like Alex Jones, you sure as hell would not like the outcome of the plans he is warning about, when they come to fruition. Please take the Infowars challenge. Ignoring them will not make them go away. It will only ensure that they come true sooner, without anything to even slow them down. To that end, I am requesting of you the same request I extended to my childhood friend. Please download the Alex Jones Infowars phone app, or go to the website, Infowars.com, and click on Listen to Alex, and find the best option for you to hear him. Jones is actually on about 150 AM and FM radio stations, but for some reason, the website doesn't seem to have a list of those stations. None of the big radio companies will play the show, because they're owned or controlled by the globalist cabal that Jones is exposing. Mom-and-pop radio stations pick up the show. This drives traditional political pundits in both the Democratic and Republican parties wild, because they tend to fall in either of the first two categories I previously mentioned. They either are paid to discredit him, or they truly believe he's crazy, because it's beyond their ability to consider the alternative. The false left-right paradigm. In case you don't know, Jones speaks harshly about both parties. No matter which party is in the White House, he is their harshest critic. He has made the concept of the false left-right paradigm into a fairly common meme among the ever-growing awakening population. He eviscerates Obamacare, but is constantly pointing out that the Republicans, as a whole, are not doing anything to repeal it. He says that the Republicans actually helped write it. Like David Icke, another conspiracy researcher, he talks about how, at the national level, there are actually, in effect, two divisions of a single, status quo, globalist political party: the Libertarian Tea Party. As far as political parties go, his only hope seems to be for what he calls the real Tea Party. He is always quick to talk about how traditional corporate Republicans crippled the Tea Party by their hijack attempts. He points out, almost on a daily basis, the fact that Republicans and Democrats stand united in their opposition against real Tea Party members who cling to libertarian values. I do find it interesting that he still puts any faith in electoral voting. He is aware of vote fraud, yet he still held out hope that Ron Paul would get all his votes counted, and he still talks about the possibility of Rand Paul being elected. It just goes to show you, we all have our blind spots. Dog and pony show voting. Until ballots are simple pieces of paper that are marked with a pen, by hand, by the voter, placed in see-through boxes that never leave public viewing, and then are counted, at each and every precinct, in public, on video, with members of all parties as witnesses, there will never be a fair election. It is naive to think otherwise. That means that people like the Pauls, who would take measures to take away the power of the globalist cabal to control the nation, will never be president even if the vast majority of people vote for them. I suppose the fact that they can be elected into the Congress gives people hope, but at the presidential level, the vote scammers have so much control, it's not possible under any system other than the one prescribed above. I believe the reality is, the Pauls and people like them could be prevented from winning congressional seats as well, but the powers that be allow a few decent people in, to help people keep believing that elections are more than the dog and pony shows they actually are. Why the Ron Paul campaign was important and the Rand Paul campaign will be as well. That doesn't mean I wasn't excited about the Ron Paul presidential campaigns. I knew the media wouldn't give him his due and the vote counters wouldn't give him his votes. But just by being involved in the process, his freedom, liberty and constitutional message would, and did, get out much further than ever before. A lot of people have awakened thanks to Ron Paul having run for president. Those numbers will increase much more when Rand Paul runs. It's not like the system will allow him to be president, but the very process will help to awaken millions of more people. Be it a computer or smartphone when you take the Infowars challenge. When you listen to Alex Jones, it's a good idea to be at a computer. The reason I say this is because he is going to be reeling pieces of data off so fast, it will make your head spin like Linda Blair's character in The Exorcist. That sounds a little scary, but after the first couple false spins, you'll begin to enjoy it. The point is, though, a lot of what he says is going to stretch the limits of your credulity. That is why you should be at the computer, so you can start page the things you find hard to believe. Start page, not Google, Bing or Yahoo. Yes, I said start page instead of Google. Google, Bing and Yahoo are plugged into the NSA for live tracking of what you are searching. It's nobody's business, which is why I recommend Start Page. They actually use Google, but they disengage from their tracking ability. Google autocomplete warning, danger danger Will Robinson. Beside general principle, it's good to get away from Google for other reasons. Here's a big one. Google has the feature where various options appear below the field you are typing into. This allows you to click on one of the options before you are finished typing, if that is the term you were going to type in. It can save you a second or two, basically. It can also give you some better search choices than what you had intended to use. It's usually based on what others have entered. The problem is, it can be search terms that flag you as a potential terror threat, and you could accidentally click on it. One man wanted to search for instructions for building a radio-controlled plane as a project to do, his son. In the options that were presented was the term, radio-controlled bomb. He clicked on it by accident and then went back and did the proper search. Targeted harassment. Unlike the stories of so many people who ended up getting visited by police, Secret Service or FBI agents due to their online searches, this man was put on a list that made him what is known as a targeted individual. The government pays people to harass people. He started being harassed from various people who would come into his life and ask him about his involvement in terroristic activity. Some would try to entice him into that kind of illegal behavior. Some of the people involved, he already knew from before the errant search was made. For instance, coworkers began quizzing him about being a terrorist. If you were interested in researching this story, I sure would not do it on any engine but start page. It became a long-term living nightmare for this man. That is one of the reasons it is a good idea to run, not walk, away from Google. They should change their motto from, "Don't be evil," to, "We're so evil." Your understanding of the world will change. Anyway, when you listen to Alex Jones' radio show, and he starts saying things that you find shocking, just do live searches on the topics, and see what comes up. You probably will need to open lots of new windows because he quickly provides so much information, and so many topics. It will make a real difference in the credibility factor. You'll realize he isn't making things up and he's usually not exaggerating. As he says, if anything, he doesn't tell the full stories on what he's talking about. Listening to him will give you an incredible education on all types of things. He is basically only high school educated. He mentions taking some junior college courses, but never came close to getting a degree. However, you can tell he's read hundreds, if not thousands of books. The Cliff Notes version of Jones's success. When he started noticing how things are run, not just in the world, but on the local level, he became an activist and left school. He started a public access TV show and became a citizen journalist, which is something he urges every one of his listeners to do, and it's one of the reasons you are reading this. That led to getting a show on a local radio station, which led to working at larger stations. When he started getting censored, he left and started his own show online. The fearless reporting he did, from the start, led to insiders in various departments of government leaking information to him. This, in turn, garnered him an ever-increasing audience share in the alternative information niche, which led to even more whistleblowers coming to his show. It became a positive feedback loop that continued to gain him more exposure and an ever-expanding audience. Where Jones shines. Jones has the ability to take information that is difficult to understand, piece it together, like a puzzle, and put it into layman terms for the rest of us. He speaks on an incredible variety of topics and despite his lack of a college education is one of the brightest people you will ever hear. He understands the criminal, sociopathic mind of the members of the elite cabal that is pulling the strings. People often ask how he is able to know what is going to happen, since he has been right about so many things. He says most of the time, it's simply by reading the published reports the globalists put out publicly, that the media pretends doesn't exist. He has millions of listeners to his show, and visitors to his website. He's made close to 24 powerful video documentaries and has been able to build his own studio, and hire reporters and behind-the-scenes people to work with him. Self-made mover and shaker. He breaks stories that go on to make national and international news. The dinosaur, corporate, aka state-run, media are often forced to deal with stories they would have totally ignored if not for the fact that they were covered on Infowars.com and his radio show. To that end, he is helped by Matt Drudge, who often links to his stories. Drudge's news aggregator website gets a number of times more traffic than Jones get on his own. When Drudge links to an Infowars story, it is an extremely powerful combination. Risky business. Some guests of Jones end up murdered shortly after their appearance on his show, but he believes that more people's lives are saved by becoming guests than the amount of people who die, evidently as a result of being a guest. The reason their lives are saved is it would draw more attention to whatever the powers that be are wishing to hide, if they actually kill the person, simply because of being associated with Alex Jones. Another reason is because the information has then already been exposed, so killing the person does not help in terms of keeping secrets. Infowars health products. Jones says that he never took care of his health because he believed that he would be killed but after close to 20 years of being alive since exposing corruption, he decided to start making an effort in that department. He is now eating better and taking supplements and exercising. In fact, he sells a number of high-quality supplements that he partners with people to develop and distribute from his base. Why he's still alive. He believes he hasn't been killed for a number of reasons. In the early days, when he was not internationally famous, the powers that be didn't feel any need to shut him up. Then, once he blew up, they realized his early demise would be a wake-up call for the masses, and they have not wanted to make that happen. He also believes that God evidently isn't ready for him to leave Earth and that the prayers of his listeners who seek safety for him and his staff are currently being answered in the affirmative by the Creator. He requests and appreciates your prayers. Predictive track record. Jones has predicted so many things that have come to pass, it is silly to try to label him a lunatic. Still, many people will point to things that he is warning about that have yet to come to pass, and try to present that as evidence that he's paranoid. The point of the warnings are to try to prevent events. The fact that not everything he is warned about has occurred, in no way takes away from all the events he did warn about that did happen. The biggest of them all was 9/11. Less than 2 months before the day, he went on the air and said that the shadow government was planning a largest terror event within the U.S. border, probably New York, and that it would be blamed on Osama bin Laden and used to start wars and deny civil rights. Even if that was the only prediction he ever got right, how could you not pay attention to him, or call him paranoid after that? Of course, it's not the only thing he's been right about. There are hundreds, if not thousands of things he has said that caused great laughter among his detractors, which have since been confirmed to be true. Proven true too many times to count. A lot of this data isn't about predictions, but about events and technology that have been ongoing. He would announce things on his show and the media would scoff at him and call him crazy. He told us we all were being watched, like criminals. He said we all have massive files, tracking every aspect of our lives. The media went wild and called him delusional. Many years later, the Snowden revelations proved him true. Where are the media apologies? Most of the media members who called him crazy have yet to bother to apologize. Instead, they became apologists for the government, citing the need to invade privacy and deny constitutional rights for the sake of security. That's the way it works. First people make fun of him, call him every name in the book, and laugh at what he says like it couldn't possibly be true. Then when the information comes out that confirms he was right, the attitude suddenly shifts to, of course it's true. It's necessary and there is nothing wrong with it, because we've got to have protection against terrorism, even if it does tear the Bill of Rights to shreds. Bees versus terrorists. Jones destroys that excuse with ease. He cites the number of U.S. deaths by terrorists, and compares with the deaths by things like bumblebees and lightning strikes, both of which kill more people than terror events or mass shootings. He then puts it in perspective, asking if we should spend trillions on wars against bees to protect the citizens, destroy our rights, invade our privacy, to make sure people aren't breeding bees illegally, or use drones to kill wedding parties in Pakistan that have a guest who is rumored to be exporting EEs to the United States. He has been proven right about so many things. It shows a lack of a grasp of reality to still play the tinfoil hat card on Alex Jones. As he is wont to say, on a daily basis, he isn't always right. He's far from perfect. But then again, who is? Your life will change if you listen to Jones with an open mind, and then do your own follow-up research. You just may learn more vital information in the course of a few weeks, or even days, than you have probably learned in years, or possibly even decades. Being afraid to listen is probably the fastest way to help bring about the things you are afraid of. If you would like to take a stab at helping to prevent the unpleasantness that the globalist psychos have planned for us, your best shot is to listen to Jones' radio show and get as many people as you can to do the same. Step into your destiny, be the solution you intended to be. Do this in the spirit of meeting your destiny, the reason you chose to come to Earth at this time. We all have pivotal roles to play. Goodness will ultimately prevail. We each must do our part, have faith, learn, love and take action. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Let it all shine on. Please subscribe to this channel. You will get notified when I publish new videos. Thanks.